These 3 completely true crazy ex-boyfriend and girlfriend stories will have you questioning if your ex could turn into a psycho stalker after a breakup. I've only had 3 girlfriends in my life. My first relationship was with a girl I met in college. My current girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years and have a very loving relationship. In between the two was my second girlfriend, Kelly. Kelly was someone who frequently subjected me to physical and emotional pain. We met on Bumble, and after about a month of dating, Kelly and I decided to make it official. Like most relationships, at first, everything seemed great and we got along well. But the illusion of being a happy couple faded after a few months when Kelly would start acting very controlling and downright obsessive. Kelly's behavior eventually led to our breakup. You can't believe what a breakup causes some people to do. As our relationship progressed, I came to the realization that she didn't have many friends, maybe just 1 or 2, so whenever I went out with my friends on the weekends without her, she would constantly text me obsessively asking for proof of where I was. If I were ever to be at a bar alone, she'd throw a fit and insist that I share my location with her. After 4 or 5 months of dating, it reached the point where I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't even see my friends without fear of being harassed and questioned by her. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I found out I was wildly mistaken. One night, things became far worse than they ever had before. I ended up in a bar pretty buzzed with a bunch of my drinking buddies. We had started at my friend Kevin's place, and I hadn't planned on going with them to the bar, but I was having a good time, so I decided to tag along. When I finally stumbled home, Kelly was waiting for me on my parents' front porch with a batshit crazy expression on her face. This was one of the first times she touched me, repeatedly hitting me while yelling, "You're a lying cheater," and other crazy things. I had to grab her arms to stop her, but when I did, she yelled, "Get off me, I'm calling the police." So I let go and told her we were finished. This was the formal breaking up point, and she didn't take well to it. Each day, I received paragraph after paragraph of text messages, ranging from angry to apologetic to angry again. Eventually, I had to completely block Kelly because she was relentless, but that wasn't even close to the end of it. Just when I thought she couldn't get more psycho, she did. She posted a photo with a big muscular dude who looked like he wanted to kill the person shooting the photo. One of my friends who still followed her on Instagram sent me a snapshot of it. I made a joke with my friend by saying, "Wow, I see she upgraded." Less than an hour later, the unthinkable happened. Although I was living with my parents, this particular night I was home alone. All of a sudden, I heard a banging at the front door. I sprang out of bed to figure out what the hell was happening, and as I walked to the living room, I heard a man screaming to open the door. Because I didn't want him to know I was home, I stayed quiet and didn't open the door. Then, a strange number called my phone and I didn't answer. I received a text from the same number ordering me to unlock the door. The message said if I didn't open the door, he was going to break the window and beat me until I was unrecognizable. I ignored the calls and dialed 911. I couldn't believe what he did next. I heard glass breaking outside, so I looked out my window to see a familiar large bearded man smashing the windows of my brand new SUV. I recognized the roid-raged man from Kelly's Instagram post. It was the same guy I had seen in the photos only a few hours ago. The man kept screaming and banging on my door and sending me threatening texts from outside. I explained to the 911 dispatcher that my crazy ex-girlfriend had sent her current boyfriend to my house to threaten me and that he was currently damaging my vehicle. I was relieved when police arrived unexpectedly fast and apprehended the suspect while he was still in front of my house. I immediately went outside and showed the police my car and the texts while the guy was still ranting at me and saying that I would pay for talking about him to Kelly. I informed the police that I hadn't spoken to Kelly in months, and he replied, "Oh yeah, what about the texts?" as he was already handcuffed. I was much braver now that he was handcuffed. I yelled back, "What texts, you lunatic?" I provided the second police officer with all the information he required regarding Kelly and I's situation after he was taken away and thrown in jail. The officers told me I had a strong case for harassment and should definitely file for a restraining order right away. He instructed me to visit the precinct the following day, which I did. However, I also unblocked Kelly and texted her, asking her what she said to her boyfriend and why. When she replied that she didn't have any idea what I was talking about, I sent her a lengthy text, basically informing her that I had obtained a restraining order and advising her to get some professional help. I have a restraining order against her and her boyfriend. Be careful who you choose to date. There's a lot of crazy out there. I never heard from her or her roid-raging now ex-boyfriend. According to my friend, she deleted the picture with him literally the next day after that happened. And the exes just get worse. Let's talk about Mike. My first relationship began during my junior year of high school. Mike was a senior at a different high school in the nearby town. We connected on Facebook and started messaging. From there, we began hanging out and attending each other's sporting events. After a few weeks, we were officially dating. Mike was a bit of a hothead and huge for a 17-year-old, which was why he played football. Since I couldn't drive yet and he lived quite a distance away, after several months, it got annoying. And honestly, I started to fall for this boy named Andrew at my own school around the same time I felt myself losing interest in Mike. One night when Mike wanted to hang out, I asked him to pick me up so we could talk. He knew right away something was off when I said that. When he picked me up, we went for a drive and I told him I think we should take a break. He refused to accept that I was serious and angrily demanded to know what he did. When I told him it's just that I felt the spark wasn't there anymore, he got so mad that he punched his dashboard, leaving a big indent in it. He started yelling and scaring me so much I tried to get out of the car, but he stopped me, putting his hand on my shoulder and saying no, no, no. Then he asked me not to leave. He told me he's just angry, but that he'd drive me home. He put the car back in drive and started driving. As we drove, he kept getting angrier as he kept asking for more details of what he did wrong. He started blowing through stop signs. That's when I realized we weren't going in the direction of my parents' house. I asked him to pull over and let me out. He yelled no. We were approaching a wooded area, and that's when I started getting really scared. I had never seen him like this before. He was showing me a crazy side of himself. I got out of the car when he stopped it on the side of a deserted road. He yelled for me to come back, but I didn't. I ran and hid and called my mom to come get me. The next day, I left my house to walk to Andrew's house because I had plans to hang out with him. He lived only 2 blocks away. On the way there, I spotted someone across the street, not too far behind me, walking at about the same pace as me. They were wearing a hoodie with the hood up, so I couldn't see their face. The closer I got to them, the heavier my breathing got. I started walking much faster. When I got to Andrew's house, I texted him to come outside please because I thought I was being followed. Suddenly, I heard the sound of footsteps quickly approaching me from behind. I saw the guy in the black hoodie running at me. I screamed and ran as fast as I could for about 5 seconds before seeing Andrew run out of his house. I turned around again and saw the guy in black running the opposite direction down the street. I know it was Mike. The guy had an identical height and build to Mike. A few instances happened after that, like getting calls with no caller ID and seeing Mike's car parked outside my parents' house in the middle of the night. My parents were aware of what was going on, and one day, my dad drove us over to Mike's house and knocked on the front door while I was in the car and had a long, loud talk with Mike's parents. I lowered the windows to listen, and most notably what my dad yelled was that he doesn't care how old Mike is, that it's still harassment, and if he keeps trying to contact me in any way, that we'd get the police involved. It worked. Well, at least it did for almost a year. I have recently been followed on several occasions by someone in a black hoodie. I have contacted the police each time, but they haven't been able to catch him in the act. Last week, I found a note on my window that said, "My freezer is empty, but not for long." No fingerprints to be found. My dad passed away a few months ago, so there is no one around to hold him accountable. So now, I continue to live in fear of what he will do to me. Before we get to our last ex, be sure and hit the subscribe button for more horror stories like these. Kelly and Mike were pretty crazy exes, but they don't hold a candle to Ryan. I dated my ex-boyfriend Ryan for 2 years. It was an unhealthy, abusive relationship that caused me to suffer physically, but I was always too afraid to end it. I lived with my single mom in a sketchier part of town where I spent my entire childhood. It was one of the reasons I stayed with Ryan for so long. He is a big guy and I felt safe with him when he wasn't treating me like dirt. But honestly, the main factor that kept me with him was my concern for how he would react if I ended our relationship. Wish I would have known how my life would be torn apart. My mom always detested him and was aware that he wasn't good for me. I regret that it took me so long to break off contact with him. I tried to break up with him one day over text because I was afraid he would hit me or lose his mind. He tried to call me repeatedly, but I refused to answer because I was scared. After the third or fourth call attempt, he started typing for a few minutes and the text I received from him was a lengthy paragraph cursing me out. My mom was working her second job that night and wouldn't be home until around 2 in the morning, and I had class the next day, so I went to bed early around 10 p.m., but falling asleep was challenging with my mind racing. Eventually, though, I did fall asleep. He, of course, sent another paragraph, but I didn't read it right away because I was about to cry, and I didn't want to deal with it at that moment. All the lights were out when I got out of bed, but I knew I had heard something from the living room. I turned on the living room lights, but no one was there. I went to the front door to check that it was locked, and it was. I looked out the window to the driveway, but my mom's car wasn't there, so I reasoned that perhaps I was just hearing things. Nala was still seated in the same spot on my bed and hadn't moved when I returned to my room, slipped back into bed, and locked the door. As I tried to fall asleep again, I suddenly heard another sound. I quickly realized that Ryan knew where we kept the spare key in the backyard, so what if he had just let himself in? I quickly went back to my room and called my mother on the phone, telling her about what was going on. I might just be hearing house noises, she remarked, adding that she would be home soon. I sat back down in my bed and noticed Nala was still in the same position. I turned on the lamp and went to pick her up. I saw her eyes were wide open and she wasn't breathing. I scooped her up and, to my horror, discovered she was dead. I locked my bedroom door and called 911, whispering that my crazy ex-boyfriend had broken into my home and killed my cat. I was instructed to wait in the closet in my bedroom until I heard the police arrive. During this time, the front door to the house could have opened and closed, and I wouldn't have been able to hear it if it did. The police arrived and were not very helpful at all, claiming that without any concrete proof that someone broke into the house, they couldn't immediately go and arrest someone. My mother arrived home shortly after, and we both sobbed over Nala. As crazy as it sounds, we couldn't even prove that Nala was murdered by Ryan as retaliation for me. The following day, my mother changed the locks on the house. I blocked Ryan's number and all social media outlets because all the evidence pointed to him. The last time I saw Ryan was in court,